The neighbor kept bringing my mail over personally. Always polite, always smiling. On the fourth day, he said, "You should read the return addresses." I did, and realized this was never about lost mail. His name was Dennis, mid-50s, trim build, the kind of guy who wears polo shirts tucked into khakis even on weekends. He'd lived 3 houses down for maybe 8 years. We'd wave at each other, exchange pleasantries about the weather. That was it, until the mail started showing up. First time, Monday morning, I was working in the garage, organizing tools I'd been meaning to sort for months. Semi-retirement had given me time for projects I'd been putting off for years. Dennis appeared at the edge of the driveway, holding a stack of envelopes. "Hey there," he said, that same pleasant smile. "These got delivered to my place by mistake. Figured I'd bring them over." I took them, thanked him, tossed them on the workbench without looking. Junk mail, probably. It happened sometimes. The postal carriers rotated routes. New people made mistakes. Tuesday, same time, almost exactly. I was pulling weeds from the flower bed when Dennis appeared again, 3 more envelopes in hand. "Sorry about this," he said. "Seems like they're still mixing things up down at the post office?" I laughed it off. "No problem. Thanks for bringing them by." Wednesday, I started paying attention. Not because I suspected anything, just because patterns interest me, always have. Spent 30 years in systems analysis before I stepped back. You don't stop noticing patterns just because you retire. Dennis showed up at 9:47 a.m. I'd glanced at my watch when I heard his footsteps on the driveway. 5 pieces of mail this time. "Getting ridiculous," he said, shaking his head. "I'm going to call the post office myself." "Don't worry about it," I said. "I'll handle it." But I didn't, because by Thursday morning I was curious. Dennis arrived at 9:43 a.m. 4 envelopes, same smile, same apologetic tone, but this time he paused before handing them over. "You should read the return addresses," he said. Something in his voice changed. Not much, just enough. The smile stayed, but his eyes didn't match it anymore. I looked down at the envelopes in my hand. First one, Morrison & Associates, LLP, a law firm in the city. I didn't recognize the name. Second, Consolidated Storage Solutions. Never heard of them. Third, Regional Financial Services Group. Also unfamiliar. Fourth, another law firm. Different city, same state. I looked up. Dennis was already walking away, hands in his pockets, shoulders slightly hunched. Not the confident stride of a helpful neighbor. Something else. Something that looked like guilt, trying to pass as casual. I went inside. My wife Helen was in the kitchen, reading on her tablet with a cup of coffee. She'd been up since 6, same as always. Morning person. I was learning to be one now that I didn't have to be in an office by 8. "Dennis brought more mail," I said, setting the stack on the counter. Helen glanced up. "Again?" "4th day in a row." She set the tablet down. "That's not an accident." "No," I agreed. "It's not." I spread the envelopes out. Helen came around the counter, stood beside me. We looked at them together without speaking for a moment. "People don't accidentally reroute mail 4 days in a row," she said quietly. I picked up the first envelope, Morrison & Associates. The address label showed my name, but the street address was Dennis's house. Same with the others. All properly addressed to me, but delivered to 4428 Willow Creek Drive instead of 4482. Close enough to look like a clerical error. Far enough apart to make you wonder. "When's the last time we got anything from a law firm?" Helen asked. "We haven't," I said. "Not since we refinanced the house. That was 3 years ago." "And storage?" "I closed our unit when we downsized. That was before we moved here." Helen reached for one of the envelopes, not the legal ones, the financial services one. She held it up to the light, then set it down. "You need to open these," she said. "Probably should." "Not probably. You need to open them now." I looked at her. Helen wasn't given to urgency without reason. We'd been married 34 years. I'd learned to trust her instincts before I understood them. I opened the first envelope. Morrison & Associates. A formal letter dated 2 weeks prior, referencing case number 2024 CV8872 and requesting documentation related to the property transfer agreement executed on behalf of the Estate Planning Trust established June 2023. I read it twice. "We don't have an estate planning trust," I said. "No," Helen agreed, "we don't." I opened the second envelope, Consolidated Storage Solutions. A notice that Unit 447 was 3 months past due on rental fees. totaling $840, and that liquidation procedures would begin within 30 days if payment wasn't received. "We don't have a storage unit," I said. Helen didn't respond. She was already opening the third envelope. Regional Financial Services. A statement showing activity on an account ending in 4421. Multiple transactions, large ones, transfers, withdrawals, deposits, names I didn't recognize, dates going back 18 months. "This isn't ours, Bushauk," I said. "No," Helen said, "but it has your name on it." I opened the last envelope. Another law firm, shorter letter, more direct. A reminder that signature was required on documents related to the property refinance, and that failure to respond would be considered acceptance of the revised terms. "What property?" I asked. Helen picked up her phone and started scrolling. Her face went very still in a way I recognized. She only looked like that when she was working through something complicated. "When did James ask you to help with his refinancing?" she asked. "James, our son. 36 years old, married to Tara for 7 years, living in a house we'd helped them buy because that's what you did for family." "Last fall," I said. "September, I think. Maybe October." "What exactly did you sign?" "Nothing complicated. He said the mortgage company needed a co-signer for better rates. Just a formality. His credit was good, but they wanted someone with equity backing it up." "And you read what you signed?" I had read it, mostly, the parts that seemed important. James had been standing there, Tara too, both of them smiling and grateful. It was a family dinner. We'd been laughing about something. The papers were just papers. "Most of it," I said. Helen set her phone down. "They didn't steal from us. They relocated us." "What does that mean?" "It means everything you signed, every document, every form. It wasn't about their mortgage. It was about ours." I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger, not yet, just recognition. The way you feel when you suddenly understand a joke everyone else got 10 minutes ago. "Call James," I said. "Not yet." "Why not?" "Because you need to know what you're calling about first." Helen was right. She usually was. I gathered the envelopes, took them to my office, the spare bedroom we'd converted when I started working from home, and spread everything out on the desk. It took 3 hours to piece together. The property transfer agreement referenced a trust I'd supposedly established. The trust documentation included my signature. I remembered signing something about estate planning. James had said it was to make things easier if anything happened to us. Smart planning, responsible. Except the trust didn't protect our assets. It transferred them to James, with me listed as trustee, but with language that gave him control over distributions and modifications. The storage unit wasn't one I'd rented. It was registered under my name as guarantor for James's belongings when he and Tara had temporarily needed space during their renovation 2 years ago. Except there'd been no renovation, and the fees hadn't been temporary. The financial account was attached to a business entity I supposedly owned. A consulting LLC James had encouraged me to set up for tax purposes when I went semi-retired. I'd signed the paperwork at another family dinner. Tara had notarized it. She'd just gotten her license. Wanted to practice. The refinance wasn't about James's house. It was about mine. I sat back in the chair, stared at the ceiling. The afternoon light was changing angle, coming through the window at that slant that meant it was getting close to 4 o'clock. Helen appeared in the doorway with 2 glasses of water, set one in front of me, sipped hers. "Tell me," she said. So I did. All of it. Every document, every signature, every dinner conversation I'd thought was just family helping family. When I finished, Helen was quiet for a long moment. "How much?" she asked. "Of what?" "How much did they take?" I pulled up our bank statements on the computer, started tracing transactions, transfers I'd authorized because James said he needed short-term help, payments I'd co-signed because Tara explained they were for investments that would pay back double. The number kept growing. 60,000, 80,000, 115,000? "Jesus," I said. "That's just what you can see," Helen said. "What about the house?" I pulled up the property records. Our house. The one we'd paid off 6 years ago. The one that was supposed to be secure, clear title, no debt. There was a lien, filed 8 months ago, for $350,000. "How is this possible?" I asked. "You gave them permission," Helen said. "Every time you signed something without reading it. Every time you trusted them because they were family." I looked at her. "You knew." "No," she said. But I suspected little things. The way Tara would change the subject when I asked about their finances. The way James stopped inviting us to things unless he needed something. The way they started calling you Dad more often. When people get performative about affection, it's usually because they're hiding something. Why didn't you say anything? Would you have believed me? She was right. I wouldn't have. Family doesn't do this. Your own son doesn't do this. Except he had. And I'd let him. I reached for my phone. What are you doing? Helen asked. Calling him. Don't. He needs to explain. No, Helen interrupted. He needs to think you haven't figured it out yet. I stopped. Why? Because the moment you confront him, he'll lawyer up, lock everything down, and disappear behind a wall of legal protection. Right now, he thinks you're clueless. That's leverage. What kind of leverage? Helen smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. The kind that lets you decide what happens next instead of reacting to what he's already done? I set the phone down. My hand was shaking slightly. Not from fear, from something else. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. Since before the career became routine, before the marriage settled into comfortable patterns, before life became a series of predictable days. Anger, clean and cold and clarifying. What do we do? I asked. First, we document everything, every signature, every date, every conversation you can remember. Then we figure out who else knows. Knows what? That this was happening, because James didn't do this alone. Tara's involved. But who else? His friends, his colleagues, people in this neighborhood? I thought about Dennis, the way he'd looked when he told me to read the return addresses, the guilt in his posture. The neighbor knows something, I said. Then we start there. Helen left to make dinner. I sat in the office as the light faded, staring at the documents spread across the desk. 30 years of careful planning, saving, building, security, gone. Not stolen in some dramatic robbery, just redirected, slowly, politely, by the person I'd trusted most. My phone buzzed. Text message. James. Hey, Dad. Tara and I want to have you guys over for dinner Friday. Been too long. Miss you. I stared at the message. Read it 3 times. Noticed things I wouldn't have noticed before. The casual Dad instead of my name. The been too long, when we'd seen them 3 weeks ago. The miss you that felt like something you'd write to someone you were losing, not someone you were stealing from. Or maybe it felt like something you'd write when you were saying goodbye. I didn't respond. Put the phone face down on the desk, stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the neighborhood looked exactly the same as it had that morning. Quiet streets, neat lawns, families living their lives behind closed doors. Dennis's house was visible 3 doors down. His car was in the driveway, the lights on in the living room. I watched for a while, saw him pass by the window once, then again, he was pacing. People don't pace unless they're worried about something. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door. Where are you going? Helen called from the kitchen. To ask Dennis what he knows. Be smart about this. Always am. No, she said, appearing in the hallway. You're usually polite. That's different. This time you need to be smart. I nodded. Understood the distinction. The walk to Dennis's house took less than a minute. I didn't run, didn't hurry, just walked at a normal pace. The kind of pace a neighbor would use when stopping by for a casual chat. I rang the doorbell. Dennis answered almost immediately, as if he'd been waiting. Hey, he said, what's up? Can I come in? He hesitated, just a fraction of a second, then stepped aside. His living room was tidy, too tidy, the kind of clean people do when they're preparing for something or hiding something. So, Dennis said, staying near the door, what can I help you with? You can start by telling me why you've been bringing me mail for 4 days. I told you, it got delivered to my place by mistake. No, I said, it got delivered to your place on purpose, and you brought it to me because you were scared of what would happen if you didn't. His face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you do. Someone paid you to reroute my mail, someone who wanted to make sure I didn't see certain documents until it was too late. But then you realized this was bigger than you thought, and you panicked. Dennis sat down heavily on the couch, rubbed his face with both hands. I didn't know, he said. I swear I didn't know what he was doing. Who? Your son. The cold feeling in my chest spread. Tell me everything. And he did. James had approached him 6 months ago. Casual conversation at first, then drinks, then a proposition, simple job. Dennis worked for the post office. Not as a carrier, but in processing. He had access to routing systems. All James needed was for certain pieces of mail to be delayed or redirected for a few weeks. Nothing illegal, just buying time for some business deals to close. $5,000 for a few keystrokes. Dennis had done it, hadn't asked questions. Money was money. But then the envelopes kept coming, and Dennis started reading the return addresses. Law firms, financial institutions, storage companies. He'd seen enough mail fraud investigations to recognize the pattern. By the time he understood what James was actually doing, it was too late to back out without incriminating himself. So he'd compromised, started bringing me the mail personally, creating a paper trail that proved he'd delivered it, protecting himself while trying to give me a chance to figure it out. "I'm sorry," Dennis said. "I didn't mean for this to happen." "Yes, you did," I said. "You just didn't mean to get caught." I left without saying anything else. Walked back to my house. Helen was waiting in the kitchen. "Well?" she asked. James paid him to reroute the mail. "For how long?" 6 months. Helen closed her eyes briefly. "Then this isn't recent. He's been planning this for at least a year, probably longer." I poured myself water, drank it, poured another. "What else?" Helen asked. "What do you mean?" "You have that look, the one you get when you've seen the whole problem and you're working backward through the solution." I set the glass down. "He's been setting this up since we moved here. The dinners, the paperwork, the helpful suggestions, all of it was just building a framework. Something that looked like a father helping his son, but was actually a son taking everything from his father." Why? That was the question. Why would James do this? We'd given him everything. Helped with college, supported him through career changes, co-signed the house. We'd never said no to anything important. "I don't know," I said, "but I'm going to find out." "At dinner Friday?" "No. Before then. Because I need to know who else is involved and what else I'm about to lose." Helen nodded. "Then we need help." "What kind of help?" "The kind that doesn't involve trusting family." She was right. This had gone beyond family problems, beyond hurt feelings and betrayal. This was criminal, or close enough, but I wasn't ready to call the police. Not yet. Because the moment I did, this became official, public, permanent, and I wanted the chance to handle it my way first. I didn't sleep that night. Helen did somehow, her breathing steady and calm beside me in the dark. She'd always been able to compartmentalize, file things away and deal with them in order. I'd never learned that skill. Instead, I lay there and thought about James. Not the James who existed now, the one who'd stolen from me. The other one, the boy who'd built elaborate Lego cities on the living room floor. No, the teenager who'd stayed up all night before finals, stressed and exhausted, while I brought him coffee and told him he'd be fine. The young man who'd called me crying after his first real breakup, asking how you were supposed to know if someone was worth fighting for. That James had disappeared somewhere, or maybe he'd never existed at all. Maybe I'd been looking at him the way you look at something in low light, seeing the shape you expected instead of what was actually there. At 4:47 a.m., I gave up on sleep and went to my office, turned on the lamp, pulled out a legal pad, and started writing down everything I could remember. Every dinner, every phone call, every document. The timeline emerged slowly, not random at all, carefully orchestrated. James had started talking about estate planning right after Helen and I mentioned selling our larger house and downsizing. That was 2 years ago. He'd been enthusiastic about it, supportive, even helped us find this neighborhood, said he knew someone who'd lived here and loved it. The trust paperwork came 3 months later, right after we'd closed on the new house. The LLC setup happened next. Tax advantages, James had called it. A way to shelter consulting income and protect assets. Then the storage unit, then the business account, then the refinance. Each step made sense in isolation. Together, they formed a pattern. I was still writing when Helen appeared at 6:15, already dressed, holding 2 cups of coffee. "How bad?" she asked, setting 1 cup in front of me. "Worse than I thought." I showed her the timeline. She read it twice, her expression never changing. "He was waiting for the right moment," she said. "What moment?" "When you'd be vulnerable, when you'd need him more than he needed you." I thought about that. We're not vulnerable. Not yet, but you're 62. I'm 59. In his mind, we're aging, slowing down, getting forgetful. She paused. Getting easier to control. The cold feeling came back. He's been telling people I'm getting forgetful. Who? I don't know, but that's what the letter from the law firm implied. Something about revised terms I'd supposedly agreed to but didn't remember. Helen set down the timeline. We need copies of everything he has, every document, Every signature. Every piece of paper that has your name on it. How? The storage unit. You're the guarantor. You have legal access. She was right. I checked the address on the notice. Consolidated Storage Solutions, Unit 447, 20 minutes away. They open at 8, Helen said. We should be there when they do. We were. The facility was one of those industrial complexes near the highway. Rows of identical units, orange doors, climate-controlled. The office was small, staffed by one bored-looking kid who couldn't have been older than 25. Help you? He asked, not looking up from his phone. I need to access Unit 447, I said. Name? I gave it. He typed something, frowned at his screen. You're past due, he said. I know. Here to clear that up. Payment first, then access. I paid. $847 on a credit card I'd barely used. The kid printed a receipt, handed me a key attached to a plastic tag. Third row, left side, lock it when you're done. The unit was bigger than I expected. 10 by 15, packed floor to ceiling with boxes and furniture. None of it looked familiar. Helen started opening boxes while I looked around. The furniture was nice, expensive, a leather couch, matching armchairs, a dining table that still had the price tag, $4,200. Look at this, Helen said. She held up a folder. Inside were bank statements, not mine, James's, multiple accounts. Balances I couldn't make sense of, some showing thousands, others nearly empty, transfers between them in odd amounts, $3,500 here, $7,200 there, nothing that would trigger automatic fraud alerts, but enough to add up. He's been moving money, Helen said, making it look like normal expenses, but it's all going somewhere specific. Where? She flipped through more pages. An investment account, managed by Regional Financial Services. The same name from yesterday's mail. I kept searching. Found another box, more documents. These were different, purchase agreements, property deeds, all recent, all in my name. What the hell? I said. Helen came over, looked at the papers. Her face went hard. He's been buying things with your credit, using your name and your signature. How? Because you gave him power of attorney when you set up the trust. He can sign your name legally. I sat down on the leather couch that I'd apparently paid for without knowing it, tried to process what this meant. James hadn't just stolen money, he'd stolen my identity, my credit, my ability to make decisions about my own life. We need a lawyer, I said. Not yet. Helen? Not yet, she repeated, because the moment we bring in a lawyer, this becomes about legality. Courts and judges and months of waiting. James will delay everything, claim misunderstanding, produce documents showing you authorized it all, and technically you did. You signed the papers. So what do? We find out how deep this goes. Every property he bought, every account he opened, every lie he told, then we decide how to use it. She was right, again. But I was starting to wonder what the endgame looked like. You couldn't just unsteal this kind of thing. The damage was done. We spent 3 hours in that storage unit, took photos of everything, made lists, built a picture of exactly what James had done. By the time we left, the scope was clear. He'd opened 7 different credit cards in my name, run up balances totaling $63,000, paid them down with transfers from accounts I'd co-signed, making it look like I was managing my own debt. He'd purchased a rental property using my credit and his down payment. The mortgage was in my name. The deed listed him as co-owner. If the property value dropped or the tenant stopped paying, I'd be responsible for the loss. He'd even taken out a loan against the house, my house, using the equity as collateral. That was the $350,000 lien I'd found. The money had gone into the investment account. If the investments failed, I'd owe the debt. If they succeeded, James would keep the profits. He's using you as a bank, Helen said as we drove home, one that doesn't require him to pay anything back. Why now? Why after all this time? Because he's planning something bigger, something that requires more capital than he can get on his own, and the only way to get it is to drain you dry first. What could be that big? Helen didn't answer right away. Then, or maybe he's just getting ready to disappear. The thought hadn't occurred to me, but once she said it, I couldn't unthink it. What if this wasn't about building something? What if it was about escape? Take everything, transfer it somewhere secure, and vanish before anyone realized what happened. He invited us to dinner Friday, I said. I know. You think that's when he's planning to... I don't know what he's planning, but yes, I think Friday matters. People don't invite their parents over for dinner unless they need something or they're saying goodbye. We got home around noon. I made lunch neither of us ate. Helen sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone with that expression that meant she was researching something. What are you looking for? I asked. Tara's social media? Why? Because people tell you what they're doing if you know how to look. I came around to see the screen. Tara's Instagram was exactly what I'd expected. Perfect photos of perfect moments. Her and James at restaurants. Vacation shots from places I didn't recognize. The house they lived in. The one we'd helped buy, looking magazine ready. Look at the dates, Helen said. She was right. The photos had gaps. Long ones. Weeks where nothing was posted. Then sudden bursts of activity. She's curating a narrative, Helen said. Showing people what she wants them to see. Happy couple. Successful life. Everything under control. But look at this. She pulled up a photo from 3 weeks ago. James and Tara at some kind of event. Both dressed up, both smiling. The caption read, "New beginnings." What does that mean? I asked. I don't know, but people don't talk about new beginnings unless something's ending. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Then decided I should know who was calling. Hello? Mr. Peterson? A woman's voice. Professional. Clipped. Yes? This is Monica Chen from Morrison & Associates. I'm calling regarding case 2024 CV8872. We still haven't received the documentation we requested. What documentation? Silence for a moment, then, the property transfer agreement. We sent a letter 2 weeks ago explaining, I never agreed to transfer any property. Another pause, longer this time. Mr. Peterson, according to our records, you established a revocable living trust in June 2023 and designated your son James as primary beneficiary and successor trustee. The transfer was executed as part of that arrangement. No, I said. It wasn't. I'm looking at your signature right now, sir, on multiple documents, notarized by... She paused. By Tara Peterson. Of course it was. Who hired your firm? I asked. I'm not at liberty to. Who hired your firm? James Peterson contacted us 6 months ago to handle the estate planning documentation. I hung up, looked at Helen. He's been working with lawyers, I said, setting up legal cover for everything. Smart, Helen said. If this ever comes to court, he'll have a paper trail showing you authorized everything willingly, with legal representation advising you. Except I didn't authorize it. Can you prove that? I couldn't. That was the problem. I'd signed the papers. I'd trusted the explanations. I'd been polite and accommodating because that's what parents did for their children. We need to talk to James, I said, before Friday, before whatever he's planning happens. No, Helen said. We go to Friday dinner, we smile, we act like everything's normal, and we watch what he does. Why? Because people reveal themselves when they think they've won. Right now, James thinks you're clueless. He's confident, comfortable. That makes him sloppy. And if he's not sloppy? Helen looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Cold, certain, a little scary. Then we make him sloppy. That afternoon, I made a list of everyone who might know what James was doing. Started with the obvious, Tara, then worked outward. Dennis, the neighbor, already confirmed. The notary who'd witnessed my signatures. Tara, mostly. But there'd been one other time. A bank employee. I tried to remember the name. Failed. The lawyer. Monica Chen. But lawyers were protected by client privilege. She couldn't tell me anything even if she wanted to. The storage facility. Just a kid doing his job? Who else? I thought about the dinner invitation. James had said, we want to have you over. We, not I. Tara was definitely involved. But who else would be there? I texted back, sounds great. Just us, or are others coming? A response came 30 seconds later. Just family. Been too long since it was the four of us. The four of us. Not even trying to hide it anymore. I showed Helen the message. He's closing the circle, she said, getting rid of loose ends. We're not loose ends. We're his parents. No, Helen said quietly. You're a resource he's finished extracting. There's a difference. The words hit harder than they should have, maybe because some part of me had known it for months and hadn't wanted to admit it. I spent the rest of the afternoon going through old emails, looking for the moment things changed, the exact point where James stopped being my son and started being someone else. Found one from 2 years ago. Subject, just checking in. Hey Dad, haven't talked in a while. Hope you're doing okay. Let me know if you need anything. Love you. Simple, normal. Exactly the kind of message adult children send when they're busy but still care. Except I'd responded immediately. Told him everything was fine, asked about his life. He never replied. I checked the next email. 3 weeks later. Subject, quick favor. Dad, can you co-sign on a business loan? Just need someone with good credit to back it up. No risk for you, I promise. Let me know. I'd said yes. Of course I had. I'd trusted him. The loan was for $75,000. I'd forgotten about it until now, assumed he'd paid it off. I checked the business loan account, still active. Balance, $68,000. Minimum payments being made, just barely. Another piece of the puzzle, I kept scrolling. More emails, more favors, more requests that seemed reasonable at the time but looked different now. Every conversation had a transaction attached. Every "how are you" led to "can you help with." When had that started? I searched further back, found emails from 5 years ago. These were different, longer, more personal. James talking about his job, his struggles, his hopes. Asking for advice, not money. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing with this career change, Dad. You always seemed so sure about your path. How did you know? I'd written back a long response. Thoughtful, honest. Told him there was no secret. You just picked something and committed. Made adjustments as needed. Trusted yourself. He'd replied, "Thanks, Dad. That helps more than you know. Love you." That was the last email like that. After that, everything changed. Something had happened. Something had shifted James from the person who asked for advice to the person who asked for money. Or maybe nothing had happened. Maybe this was always who he was, and I'd just been too naive to see it. Helen appeared in the doorway. "It's getting dark. You should eat something." "Not hungry." "You need to eat anyway. Long few days ahead." She was right. I followed her to the kitchen. She'd made soup, simple, warm. We ate in silence. Halfway through, my phone buzzed. Text from James. "Looking forward to Friday. Tara's making your favorite. See you at 7. My favorite. He remembered. Or Tara had looked it up. Probably in old family emails where I'd mentioned liking pot roast. Even the details were calculated. I didn't respond. Helen noticed. "What?" she asked. "He says Tara's making pot roast. Your favorite." "Yeah. That's a tell," Helen said. "How?" "Because people trying to manipulate you will mirror things you've forgotten you revealed. It's a psychological trick. Makes you feel seen, understood, loved." Or maybe she just remembered I like pot roast. Helen gave me a look. When was the last time she cooked? I thought about it. Couldn't remember. Every time we'd been to their house, we'd ordered food, or James grilled. Tara never cooked. "Exactly," Helen said. "So either she's suddenly developed an interest in cooking, or she's playing a role. My guess is the latter." What does that mean for Friday? It means they're putting on a show, which means they want something, or they're about to tell you something. Like what? Like goodbye. I finished the soup, washed the dishes, went back to the office. Helen followed. "What are you doing?" "Making my own list." "Of what?" "Everything I'm going to ask James on Friday." "You can't confront him." "I'm not going to confront him. I'm going to interview him, quietly, carefully, and I'm going to watch how he responds." Helen considered this, then nodded. "What kind of questions?" "The kind that sound innocent, but aren't." I started writing. "How's work going?" "What are you working on these days?" "Any big plans coming up?" "How's the house? Need any help with repairs?" "What's Tara up to?" "Seen any good investments lately?" Each question had a purpose, each one designed to make James reveal something without realizing it. Helen read over my shoulder. "That's good, but add one more." "What?" "Ask him if he's happy." "Why?" "Because people who are actively betraying you can't answer that question honestly. They'll either deflect or overcompensate. Either way, you'll know." I added it to the list. My phone rang again. This time I recognized the number. Monica Chen from Morrison & Associates. "Mr. Peterson, I apologize for calling again, but this is urgent. We've been informed that you may be contesting the property transfer. Is that correct?" "Who told you that?" "I can't disclose that. But if you're planning legal action, we need to know immediately. There are time-sensitive elements to this case." "What elements?" "The trust agreement includes a clause stating that any beneficiary disputes must be filed within 90 days of execution. That period expires in 6 days. 6 days. Same as the Friday dinner." "Who wrote that clause?" I asked. "Your son's previous attorney. We're simply executing the documentation as requested." "Previous attorney? James had another lawyer before you?" Silence. Then, "Yes. The trust was initially drafted by Foster & Klein. We took over the case when James decided to consolidate his legal representation." I wrote down the name, Foster & Klein. "Thank you," I said, and hung up before she could say more. Helen was already searching on her phone. Foster and Klein. Estate planning specialists. They handle high net worth clients exclusively. We're not high net worth. No, but your house, your retirement accounts, your investments, added together, you're worth about $1.2 million. To someone like James, that qualifies. The number felt obscene, not because it was large, but because it represented 40 years of work reduced to a transaction. He's been planning this for years, I said. Not months, years. Since he got married, Helen agreed. Maybe before. Tara works in finance. She'd know how to structure this. You think she's the one who planned it? I think they planned it together. James needed someone who understood the systems. Tara provided that. But this was always a joint effort. I thought about Tara. Remembered the first time James had brought her home. She'd been charming, polite, asked all the right questions, laughed at my jokes. By the end of dinner, Helen and I both liked her. She's been in it from the start, I said. Yes, Helen said, and that means she's dangerous, because James might hesitate when it comes to you, might feel guilt or doubt. Tara won't. To her, you're just an obstacle. The word hung there. Obstacle. That's what I'd become. Not a father, not family, just something in the way. What happens on Friday? I asked. I don't know, but we need to be ready for anything. Like what? Helen looked at me for a long moment, then said something I never expected to hear from her. Like the possibility that they're not planning to let us leave. Helen had a plan. She always had a plan. I was starting to realize I'd underestimated her for 34 years. We need to stop reacting, she said Sunday morning. Start investigating. Investigate what? Everything. James's business, Tara's job, their finances, who they're working with, who else knows what they're doing. How do we do that? The same way they did it to you, quietly, patiently, one piece at a time. She'd already started, shown me the Instagram photo. Now she was digging deeper. Tara's profile is public, Helen said. She posts constantly, curating a narrative, like I said, but people always reveal more than they think. She scrolled through photos. Most were the kind of thing you'd expect. Brunch photos, gym selfies, vacation shots, but Helen was looking at backgrounds, details. Here, she said, stopping on a photo from 3 months ago. James and Tara at some kind of networking event. Caption, great connections tonight. What am I looking at? I asked. The banner in the background. See it? I squinted. Small text, partially obscured. Regional Financial Services Annual Mixer. That's the company managing the investment account, the one with your money in it. So they went to a work event. That's normal. Look at the date. I checked. August 15th. This was 2 weeks after they set up that account, Helen said, which means they were already planning how to use it. How do you know? Because you don't go to an investment firm's mixer unless you're a client or you're trying to become one, and James isn't rich enough to be their typical client, but you are. The pieces were fitting together. They were shopping for somewhere to put the money before they even took it, I said. Exactly, which means this wasn't opportunistic. They had a strategy. Helen kept scrolling, found more photos, more events, more connections. Here's another one, she said. October, some charity thing. Tara's posing with. She zoomed in. Monica Chen. The lawyer? The same. How do you know? Helen pulled up Morrison & Associates' website. Staff page. Monica Chen's photo matched. They know each other socially, Helen said, which means Tara probably referred James to that firm, maybe even helped structure the legal strategy. I felt something shift. This wasn't just James stealing. This was Tara orchestrating, James executing, a team effort. What else? I asked. Helen spent the next hour going through every public social media profile she could find. Tara's Instagram, James's Facebook, LinkedIn profiles, public business records. The picture that emerged was damning. James had registered 3 LLCs in the past 18 months, all using my name as a member or guarantor, all managed through Regional Financial Services, all connected to properties or investments I knew nothing about. Translation: taught people how to take from their families legally. She's done this before, Helen said quietly. How do you know? Because nobody gets this good at it without practice. I'll bet if we dig, we'll find other clients she's advised, other families she's helped destroy. Can we prove that? Maybe, but it'll take time. We don't have time. The trust dispute deadline is in 4 days. Helen set down her phone, looked at me. Then we need leverage. What kind of leverage? The kind that makes them stop, makes them negotiate. They won't negotiate. You saw how they acted Friday. They will if they're scared enough. Of what? Of losing everything they've worked for. I didn't follow. Helen explained. James has a reputation, she said. A career. Connections. Tara, too. They've built a life based on image. Success. Trustworthiness. If that image cracks, everything else falls apart. So what do we do? Call their employers? Tell everyone what they did? Not yet. First we find something they can't afford to have exposed. Like what? Helen smiled. That cold smile. Everyone has secrets, even James and Tara. She spent the rest of Sunday digging. I helped where I could, but mostly I watched and learned. Helen had a process, methodical, thorough. The next 7 days were strange, not tense the way I expected, more like waiting. Suspended animation. Helen and I didn't talk about it much, just went through our routines. I worked in the garage, she read, we had dinners, watched TV, normal things, but underneath, we were both counting down. I checked my accounts obsessively, looking for transfers, movement, anything that would indicate James was following through. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, a small transfer, $5,000, token gesture, or maybe a test to see if I'd notice. I noticed. Day 3, another transfer, $15,000 this time. Progress. Day 4. Helen found something. Look at this, she said, showing me her phone. Tara's Instagram, a new post, photo of a sunset. Caption, sometimes you have to let go of what you thought you wanted to find what you actually need. What does that mean? I asked. It means she's preparing people for something, a change, maybe them leaving. Leaving where? This life, this city, us. I thought about it. You think they're planning to run? I think they're planning to disappear, quietly, without drama, just fade away and start over somewhere else. They can't do that. James has a job, connections. James has a reputation he's about to lose. Once word gets out about what he did, even if we don't report the fraud, people will know. His career here is finished. She was right. Even if James returned everything, even if we didn't press charges, the damage was done. People would find out. They always did. And once they did, James and Tara would be done in this city. So they're cutting their losses, I said. Yes, and probably taking whatever they can carry. Day 5. Major movement. $150,000 transferred to my account. Then another $50,000. Then property deeds showing liens removed. James was actually doing it. But Helen was right. This wasn't about making things right. This was about damage control. Getting ahead of the exposure, salvaging what they could before everything collapsed. Day 6. I got a call from the bank. They wanted to verify the recent activity on my account. Large transfers, unusual pattern. I confirmed everything was legitimate. The banker sounded skeptical, but processed it anyway. Just being cautious, she said. When we see this kind of movement, we have to check for fraud. Ironic. Day 7. The deadline. I woke up early, checked my accounts. Nearly $400,000 had been transferred back. Not everything, but most of it. The house lien was cleared. The trust had been dissolved according to a notice from Morrison and Associates. The LLC accounts showed me removed as a member. James had actually followed through, but Helen was right. This wasn't over. I called him. He answered immediately. Did you see? He asked. Everything's back. Most of it. The rest is coming. I just need a few more days to liquidate. No more days. Dad, please, I'm doing everything you asked. Because I forced you to, not because you wanted to make things right. Silence. What do you want from me? James asked quietly. Nothing. That's the point. I don't want anything from you anymore. So that's it? We're done? Yes, we're done. Dad. I hung up. Helen was watching from the doorway. How do you feel? Empty. That's normal. Is it? Yes. You just cut off your son. Doesn't matter that he deserved it. It still hurts. She was right. It did hurt. Not the sharp pain of betrayal anymore. Something duller, deeper, the kind of pain that would probably never fully go away. What now? I asked. Now we figure out what we do with the rest of our lives, without James, without that weight. It sounded simple. It wasn't. The next few weeks were an adjustment. learning to exist without the constant tension, without checking accounts every day, without waiting for the next shoe to drop. James and Tara didn't reach out. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits. Helen monitored their social media. Tara's posts became less frequent, more generic. Travel photos without location tags, generic inspirational quotes. "They're preparing to leave," Helen said. "When?" "Soon. Maybe a month, maybe less. Should we care?" "No, but we should know." She was right. Information was power, even if we didn't plan to use it. 3 weeks after the deadline, Dennis appeared at my door. First time I'd seen him since he'd admitted James paid him to reroute the mail. "Hey," he said, looking uncomfortable. "Can we talk?" "About what?" "About what happened. I want to apologize." I considered turning him away, decided against it. "Come in." We sat in the living room. Dennis looked around like he'd never been in the house before. Maybe he hadn't. "I'm sorry," he said. "For what I did. Taking money to mess with your mail. I didn't think it would turn into whatever it turned into." "You didn't think at all. You just took the money." "Yeah, I know, and I've been beating myself up about it ever since." "Good. You should. Have you told anyone about what I did?" There it was, the real reason for the visit. Not apology, self-preservation. "No," I said. "I haven't told anyone." Relief flooded his face. "Thank you. But if you ever do anything like that again, to anyone, I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. Understood?" "Yes, absolutely, I swear." "Good. Now get out." He left quickly. Helen came downstairs after he'd gone. "What did he want?" "To make sure I wasn't going to report him." "Are you?" "No, he's not worth the trouble. And honestly, he was just a pawn. James would have found another way if Dennis hadn't helped." Helen nodded. "That's probably true." We settled into a new routine, quieter, calmer, the kind of life we'd thought we were building when we first retired. But something had changed. I'd changed. Helen too. We were more cautious now, less trusting. We read documents before signing them, asked questions, protected ourselves. It was sad, but necessary. 1 month after the deadline, Tara's Instagram went dormant. Last post was 3 weeks ago. No updates since. Helen did some digging. Found out James had left his job. Pursuing new opportunities, according to his LinkedIn. Translation: fired or forced out once people started asking questions. "They're gone," Helen said. "Probably left the state." "Good. Is it?" "Yes. Better for everyone." Helen looked at me. "Do you really believe that?" "I have to. Otherwise, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what I could have done differently." "You did nothing wrong." "I trusted the wrong person. That was wrong." "No. Trusting your son wasn't wrong. What he did with that trust was wrong. There's a difference." She was right. Intellectually, I knew that. Emotionally, it was harder to accept. 2 months after the deadline, I got a letter. Legal envelope, Morrison and Associates return address. My stomach clenched. What now? I opened it carefully. Inside was a single page, notarized document confirming the trust dissolution, final settlement showing all assets returned and all parties released from further obligation. It was over. Legally, officially, completely. I showed Helen. "Well," she said, "that's that." "Yeah." "How do you feel?" "I don't know. Empty. Relieved, sad, all of it." "That's normal." "Is it?" "I think so. You lost your son. Doesn't matter that he chose to leave. You still lost him." I sat down, stared at the letter, all those legal words, all that formal language, reducing years of relationship to a single page of text. "Do you think he regrets it?" I asked. "James?" "Yeah. Do you think he regrets what he did?" Helen was quiet for a long moment. "Honestly, I don't think James thinks about it at all. People like him don't feel regret the way normal people do. They feel inconvenience, frustration, maybe embarrassment, but not true regret. That's depressing. It's realistic." We sat there for a while, not talking, just processing. Eventually, Helen stood up. "Come on, let's go somewhere." "Where?" "Anywhere. Dinner, movie, doesn't matter. We need to stop dwelling on this." She was right. We needed to move forward. We went to dinner. Nice restaurant, wine, good food. We didn't talk about James. Didn't mention any of it. Just had a normal evening. It felt strange, but good. 3 months after the deadline, Helen found something interesting. "Look at this," she said, showing me her phone. An article, local business journal. "Regional Financial Services under investigation for investment fraud." I read the article. RFS had been managing investments for multiple clients, promising high returns, delivering nothing, classic Ponzi scheme. The investigation was ongoing, but early estimates suggested millions of dollars in losses. "James's money was in there," I said. "Yes, which means whatever he didn't give back to you, he probably lost." Poetic justice. James had stolen from me to invest in a fraud scheme, and the scheme had collapsed. "Think he knew?" I asked. "Maybe, maybe not. But it doesn't matter. He's gone." She was right. James was someone else's problem now, or no one's problem. Either way, not ours. 6 months after the deadline, we'd settled into our new normal. The house was paid off. The accounts were restored. Our retirement was secure. But something had shifted. Helen and I were different now. Harder, more careful, less willing to let our guard down. We'd learned a lesson the hard way. Trust was earned, not given, not even to family. One evening, Helen said something I'd been thinking but hadn't voiced. "We should move." "Why?" "Because this house has too many memories now. Every room reminds us of what happened. We need a fresh start." She was right. The house had become a monument to betrayal. Every time I walked through it, I thought about James, about the documents I'd signed here, the dinners we'd had, the lies I'd believed. "Where would we go?" I asked. "Somewhere different. New city, new neighborhood, somewhere nobody knows us." "That's running away." "No, that's moving on." I thought about it. She was right. Again. We started looking at houses. Different city, 2 hours away. Far enough to feel like a fresh start. Close enough to not be isolating. Found a place we liked. Smaller than the current house. Newer. Clean slate. We made an offer. It was accepted. The move happened fast. We didn't have much we wanted to keep. Most of the furniture held too many memories. We donated it. Bought new stuff for the new place. Starting over. Completely. The day we left, I stood in the empty house one last time. Helen was already in the car. Waiting. I looked around. Remembered the day we'd moved in. How excited we'd been. How this was supposed to be our retirement dream. It had become something else. A lesson. A warning. I locked the door. Walked to the car. Didn't look back. Helen reached over. Squeezed my hand. "Ready?" she asked. "Yeah, I'm ready." We drove away. Started the next chapter. The new house was good. Better than expected. Quiet neighborhood. Nice people. Nobody knew our history. Nobody asked questions. We made new routines. Found new places to eat. New hobbies. New friends. Life moved forward. But I still thought about James sometimes. Wondered where he was. What he was doing. If he ever thought about us. Probably not. Helen was right. People like James didn't dwell on their past. They just moved on to the next target. 1 year after the deadline, I was organizing files in the new office when I found something I'd forgotten about. A photo. James at maybe 8 years old, missing front teeth, holding up a trophy from some school competition, grinning at the camera. I stared at it for a long time, trying to reconcile that kid with the man who'd stolen from me. Couldn't do it. The kid in the photo was innocent, happy, full of potential. The man he'd become was something else. I put the photo in a drawer. Didn't throw it away. Didn't display it either. Just filed it away with other things I wasn't ready to fully let go of. Helen appeared in the doorway. "You okay?" "Yeah, just found an old photo." "Of James?" "Yeah." She came over, looked at the photo. Her expression softened slightly. "He was a cute kid," she said. "Yeah." "Shame what he became?" "Yeah." We stood there for a moment. Then Helen closed the drawer. "Come on," she said. "Dinner's ready." We walked away. Left the photo in the drawer. Left the past where it belonged. Behind us. 2 years after the deadline, we were at a restaurant in our new city, having dinner with friends we'd made. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Then something made me. "Hello? Dad? James?" I froze. Helen saw my expression. Mouthed, "Who is it?" I covered the phone. "James." Her face hardened. I uncovered the phone. "What do you want?" His voice sounded different, strained. "I wanted to check in, see how you're doing." "We're fine." "That's good. I'm glad." Silence. "Is that all?" I asked. "I wanted to apologize, really apologize, for everything." You already apologized, when you were forced to. I know, but I've had time to think. About what I did, what it cost both of us. What did it cost you? Everything. My career. My marriage. Tara left me 6 months ago. Said she couldn't be with someone people didn't trust. I should have felt satisfaction. Didn't. Just felt empty. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, not meaning it. No, you're not, and that's okay. I don't deserve sympathy. No, you don't. I just wanted you to know I understand now. What I did. How wrong it was. And I'm sorry. Okay. Is there any chance we could talk? Meet up? No, I interrupted. We're not doing that. Dad, I'm not your dad anymore. You made that choice when you stole from me. I know, but maybe someday. No, not someday, not ever. You burned that bridge. It's gone. Silence on the line. Long, heavy. Then, okay, I understand. Goodbye, Dad. He hung up. I set the phone down. My hand was shaking. Helen was watching. What did he want? To apologize, and to see if we could reconnect. What did you say? No. Good. Our friends were looking at us with concern, clearly sensing something had happened. Everything okay? One of them asked. Yeah, I said. Just an old problem trying to come back. It's handled. We finished dinner, went home. Helen and I didn't talk about the call. What was there to say? James had made his choice. I'd made mine. It was over. 3 years after the deadline, Helen and I were celebrating our anniversary. 37 years. Most of them good, some of them harder than others. We were at our favorite restaurant in the new city, the one we'd found a few months after moving, the one that felt like home. To us, Helen said, raising her glass. To us, I agreed. We drank, ate, talked about everything except the past. You know, Helen said eventually, I'm proud of us. For what? For surviving. For not letting what happened destroy us. Did you think it would? For a while, yes. I thought maybe you'd never recover. That you'd stay angry forever. I'm not angry anymore. I know, that's why I'm proud. I thought about that. She was right. The anger had faded, replaced by something else. Not forgiveness, but acceptance. Understanding that some things couldn't be fixed, only left behind. I'm proud of us too, I said. We finished dinner, walked home. The night was clear, stars visible despite the city lights. Helen took my hand. Think we'll ever hear from James again? She asked. Maybe, probably. But it doesn't matter. Why not? Because we know who we are now, what we're capable of, what we won't tolerate. That's worth more than any relationship. Helen smiled. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just had to wait 37 years to notice. She laughed, real laughter, the kind I hadn't heard enough of lately. We got home, went inside, our house, our life, built on lessons learned the hard way, but built solid, built to last. 4 years after the deadline, I got a letter. Not legal this time, personal, from James. I recognized the handwriting, stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Inside was a single page, handwritten. Dad, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I have no right to contact you, but I needed to say this one more time. I was wrong. Completely. Unforgivably. What I did to you wasn't just theft. It was betrayal of the worst kind. I took advantage of your trust, your love, your goodness, and I used all of it to hurt you. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I understand now. What I lost. What I destroyed. Not just money or property, but you, us, the relationship we had. And I live with that every day. I hope you're happy. I hope you found peace. You deserve both. I'm sorry. James. I read it twice, then 3 times. Showed it to Helen. What do you think? I asked. I think he means it. Does that change anything? No, but it's something. I folded the letter. Put it in the drawer with the photo. Are you going to respond? Helen asked. No. Why not? Because some doors close permanently, and you can't reopen them just because you're sorry. Helen nodded. Understood. The letter stayed in the drawer. I never responded, but sometimes, late at night, I'd think about it. About James, about the man he'd become, the man he could have been, and I'd feel sad. Not angry, not betrayed, Just sad for the loss of what could have been. But I didn't regret my choice. Cutting James out was the right decision. The only decision? Some bridges needed to burn. 5 years after the deadline, Helen and I were sitting on our back porch, watching the sunset, drinking wine. "You know what's strange?" Helen said. "What?" "I can't remember the last time I thought about James. I considered that." "Me neither." "Is that bad?" "No, I think that's healing." She smiled. "Maybe you're right." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky change colors, orange to pink to purple. Our life now was simple, quiet, good. Everything we'd worked for, everything we deserved, and we'd earned it, not by trusting blindly, but by learning when to fight, when to stand our ground, when to protect ourselves. James had taught us that, inadvertently, cruelly, but effectively. We were stronger now, wiser, more careful, and we were happy. The sun dipped below the horizon, the last light fading. Helen reached over, took my hand. "To the future," she said. "To the future," I agreed, and we meant it.